All right, we're going.
All righty. Well, last week 3-2 in the Super Contest. Circa we were 2-2-1. So that Browns game was the one game where we had plus 2.5 in the Super Contest, but we only had two in the
Yep.
Circus. That missed field goal. We still covered obviously the Westgate, but not with the Circa. We were all over that Cowboys game, and that was from the jump, that first drive,
Mm-hmm.
which is great. Titans had a sweat at the end. That was one of those, I had a bit of a, here we go moment.
Yep.
Wentz got him down to the goal line, but then Wentz did what he does, which was great. The Seahawks game was a wild one. I mean, I don't know. We were in that game the whole way. Um, it was kind of like back and forth, and then the Saints just got outside the number at the very end, and Seahawks couldn't do anything. And then that Bucks loss was fresh. I mean, they were up 21-0 after the third. Meltdown in the fourth. Even got the assistance of a phantom roughing the passer call, which extended the drive. Didn't have to give the ball back to Atlanta, so that was a bit of a frustrating loss. But I did go back and look. A lot of games, we had the right read on. Cardinals was a game we were leaning, and they were an underdog and lost by that field goal. Texans we were on. They were on a dog. They won outright. We were leaning Bills, won in a blowout, kind of how we talked about it. Same with the Pats, and then we were leaning Vikings too. They pushed, and then I mean there was really only one game where we were leaning Dolphins. Didn't take it. That was our biggest miss of the week. But again, like feels like where we net out with our discussions, like we're reading the board overall pretty good.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
Um, so just got to kind of stay the course, and hopefully we'll see some breaks start to really fall our way. Um, all right, let's get into it. You ready?
Yeah. Yeah, I'll start. So I'll just give my the home dog list. We got seven of them this week. We
Yep.
got the Steelers +8, Saints +2, Giants +5.5, Dolphins +3.5, Falcons +5.5, Seahawks +2.5, and the Chiefs +2.5. So keep an eye out for those as we go down the list.
Yep. And actually, that one stat that I did see: underdogs 45, 30, and 3 against the spread this season. Um, Also worth noting, best teams against the spread: Falcons 5-0. The run continues. Dallas is 4-1. Giants are 4-1. Chargers are 4-1. Worst teams against the spread: Rams are 1-4. The Commanders 1-4. Broncos 1-4. Minnesota, Carolina all 1-4. So yeah, just some notes there. All right, let's get into the first game. Bucks at Pitt. Bucks are laying 8.
Yeah, so my knee-jerk reaction to this is that the Bucks would win in a similar fashion to how the Bills did last week. I did look at it as the veteran Bucks defense. They still played well against against the Falcons, right? I mean, what the final score end up being? You said what? They're up 21-0,
Yep.
and then what?
21-15 was the final.
Yeah, and I think a lot of that was taking the foot off the gas, but I do think that maybe there is something to it with the Bucks. So, I don't think the Bucks are necessarily as strong as the Bills are. I mean, the Bucks. So both teams they have not been doing too great against the spread. Bucks have lost their last three against the spread.
Mm-hmm.
Steelers are 0-3-1 in their last four against the spread. So like I said, my knee-jerk reaction was to go with the Bucks, but part of me does kind of lean the Steelers. I feel like that +8 is maybe kind of an enticing underdog number because I feel like that's one of those ugly numbers people jump on. It's not really much of a football number at all, and it always feels like those are the ones that kind of screw you. Kind of in like a silly sense. Maybe there is something to Brady with the divorce. He's not been playing well since that news has really been heating up. or I should say the
Mhm.
team has not been performing too great. I mean, just even this season, the team just hasn't looked as strong in years past. I think a lot of that has to do with Godwin still being rusty, no
Mhm.
Gronk. AB is, people really overlook how big of a difference AB made. I mean, AB when he was there was arguably their wide
He was
receiver one.
awesome. He was
Yeah, I mean,
awesome.
he was getting like double digit targets every game, which is crazy.
Yeah.
And so I think that this offense is taking a step back a little bit. Those weapons are a lot weaker than last year. And I mean, just it is kind of interesting. I did just see some stuff where there were conspiracy theories that Giselle's a witch. There's like quotes like Tom Brady talking about how before games she makes him an altar with like pictures of the kids and the family and all that stuff, and has like mantras and really tries to manifest things and like healing stones and protection stones and stuff like that. So there could be something to it with maybe she's putting a hex on him as well. And that kind of makes me lean the
What
Steelers.
a
But
take.
I just feel like it's hard to get blown out like that 2 times in a row. The Steelers are at home now. They were on the road in Buffalo. It was Kenny Pickett's first start. So I do expect a little bit of a correction there, and maybe they can keep it close.
Yeah. Yeah, the just a few notes I had. Tomlin 14-4-2 as a home dog. But we've kind of said every week, like his history as a dog is just gonna continue to get challenged. I mean, last week was bad, it's to the point you were making, like the Bucks haven't looked all that great either. 8 was the number last week with the Falcons. It is a weird number. I mean, this does seem like a game where like that Bucks D could really feast on that Steelers offense just because Pickett is so young. It's only going to be his second start. But the game being in Pitt, early game, kind of has weird vibes to it with that number. I don't know. I don't have a strong opinion. I mean, I wouldn't want to bet against the Bucks, but I don't think I'd feel comfortable taking that 8 either, laying 8.
Yeah.
Um, so it's a game that I don't necessarily feel all that confident in either side. Um, so I don't know. I mean, do you have a strong lean or a like on Pitt?
No.
Or
Like I said, I just lean the Steelers at that number, but it's not a favorite of mine or anything.
yeah, yeah. Okay. All right. Well, let's move into the next game and see what we got here. So it's Bengals. They're in New Orleans, and the Saints are getting 2 at home. So that's one of your home dogs.
Yeah. So these are two teams that I just don't really believe in much this year. I've been saying how I don't think the Bengals are a team that really get right and kind of get back to what they were at the end of last season. And the Saints, they just, I don't know. I mean, what's the status on Jameis? I know there was a chance of him coming back,
Let me see what the update is. Hold on.
but I mean, Andy Dalton hasn't looked awful, coming in, and I mean, it's
But
kind of
then
just
it's
like
but then it's
whatever.
like
I mean,
last week, it was all Taysom Hill.
yeah,
So it's
yeah.
like, Dalton's been okay, but also like last week was just Taysom Hill.
Yeah, yeah, and I don't see that that huge game. I mean, 3 touchdowns, however many yards he had, happening
Exactly.
again.
Yeah.
I think there is something to Burrow and Chase going back to Louisiana. I could see them, especially on the turf and the dome, having a big game, and
Rekindle some magic.
yeah, and just in a close game like in a close spread like this, -2. I lean the Bengals here.
Yeah, I lean Bengals too. I mean, I think it looks like Landry and Thomas are out too.
Yep.
I don't think they're officially ruled out, but they were out of practice. Jameis a question mark. Yeah, but like I don't know. I think the Bengals just have more weapons in this case, and I like your point about them going back to Louisiana. It was a little yeah, just recapture some of that magic. So that, Bengals would be a lean for me here. I don't think it's a love, but I definitely like Cincy over the
Yeah,
six.
it's the only favorite in my top 5, or actually, that's not true. I think I have 2 favorites in my top 5. This is one of them.
Okay.
I just think this is one where the Saints offense just is going to be able to keep up, and They just
Yeah, I mean, you get those wide receivers for the Bengals in a dome too. It's like, that could really turn into a track meet.
yeah, and Olave too. I mean, Olave's coming off that concussion. I think he's been at practice, but
Yeah, he may not even. I think I read today he's in like phase 3.
yeah, I think I just saw that he was spotted at practice. I don't know what his level of participation was or anything.
Tua was at practice today too, but like
Yeah, he's just
he
throwing.
may also still be a long way.
Yeah, he's already ruled out, I think, for this week.
Yeah.
Or they said there's like a chance he could be activated, but he's not playing regardless.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I mean, that makes it sound like there's a good chance he plays next week.
Yeah.
So McDaniel was just saying he's like it's not fair to the player and not fair to the team, all that stuff.
Yeah. Um, T. Higgins hasn't practiced this week. Let's see. I think both tackles have knee injuries for the Bengals. A lot of injuries.
Yeah,
Marshawn Lattimore missed practice. Oof, man. Interesting. Kind of messy with the injuries.
yeah.
But I
Anything
guess
on Jameis?
what's that?
Jameis?
Let's see, James
Limited. It says limited.
limited Wednesday and Thursday.
Yeah. I mean, either way, I mean, as long as it's Chase, as long as it's Burrow, Mixon's going to be in there as well. I still like the Bengals a lot here. I just think they're the better team. I think the Saints, they're the team that's truly trending down, or I think it's more just,
Yeah.
um, I think the Bengals is more water finding its level, or I think the Saints are kind of trending down. I just don't think that's a very strong team.
Yeah.
So I lean the Bengals on the road here.
Saints 0-4 in their last 4 as a home dog since he's 11-2 against the spread in their last 13. So
Yeah.
to your point about trends. Okay, Bengals are alike. All right, next game. Colts -1.5 at home against the Jags.
Yeah. So I like the Colts to begin with anyways. I'm on the Colts -1.5 here.
Yep.
And then it also kind of made me feel better when, I saw those stats about Jerome Boger. He's the one that called that the roughing the passer for Brady.
Yeah.
And they were showing all these stats, and it's like, the Bucks, they play so well when Boger, when Boger's the ref and Brady's been there and all that. But also for a home favorite in divisional games, when Jerome Boger's the head ref, or it's his crew or whatever, they're 18-3 money line, 12-7-2 against the spread in those same games.
Where did you find that stat?
It's like all over Twitter. But
That's unbelievable.
yeah, so I mean, so I like the Colts already, and then I saw that on Twitter, so I just looked up who Jerome Boger's next game was, and this is his next game.
Yeah.
So that's something that stuck out to me right away. But I just think the Colts are a better team. I thought the Jags were a little bit of fool's gold in the first couple weeks. I do like Trevor Lawrence, but I do think that they certainly overspent with the receivers that they did get. The weapons still aren't really there for him. And I think this is also just not a very good team, and a team can only improve so much year over year, and they were a very bad team last year to begin with. So I think that we're starting to see the Jags kind of come back down and return to that 4th spot in the division standings. And I just don't think that the Colts are as bad as they've been playing. They are getting. It sounds like they're getting Jonathan Taylor back. I don't know
Yep.
if the deal's with Naheem Hines, but I think getting Taylor back will be a huge, huge get because. The big thing was that they just could just not really care about the run and just worry about the pass with Matt Ryan, and he's under that pressure. But yeah, I mean, I just don't think this team's as bad as we're seeing right now, and I think that they're gonna come back a little bit and still compete in that division. So I like the Colts here, as small home favorites.
Yeah, it's funny. I was like, as I was kind of pulling some of the trends, uh, they beat the Colts 24-0 a couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
But in matchup, Jags are 13-1 with straight cover. He's 0-3 against the spread as a favorite this year and 5 in their last 5. But then in terms of like just trend, like Jags have lost the last 2. Indy is bad. Have looked 2-2-1. Like they seem to have
Your Wi-Fi is cutting out
You know,
bad.
they do get what's that?
Your Wi-Fi is cutting out real bad.
Oh, Jesus. What about now? Am I back?
You're like moving frame by frame, yeah.
Oh, good.
But you were frozen. All right. Yeah, so you just want to read those stats off again? Yeah.
Yeah. Jags 13-1 in this matchup. Jags 13-1 with six straight covers. Obviously beat them a couple weeks ago, 24-0. Indy's 0-3 against the spread this year as a favorite, 0-5 in their last five. But it's like we were talking about this I think it was last week or maybe the week before. We were talking about like, when a roulette wheel lands on black, 13 times in a row, like, do you bet black or do you bet red? And
Yeah.
I just like, you were saying earlier, like, like in terms of trends, like, Jags have lost their last two. Seems like maybe they're coming back to earth. Indy, like as bad as they've looked, 2-1 right now. They're kind of hanging around, a little bit of alligator blood. JT is back. It does seem like he's trending to play. That's going to be a huge boost for them. They're at home. I I just feel like this is what, like, to me, this is just a game like it's just screaming buck the trends,
Yeah, because I mean, I think
hold
the
the
big thing
Colts.
too is that so many of those like against the spread things are, these huge spreads because the Colts have been so much better than the Jags in these recent years.
It's a good
So
point
it's like
too.
now we're looking at it. I mean, even in that week one, I mean, okay, so it was a 3 point spread, but now we're getting right there. We're just looking for a winner here.
Yeah.
Um, so it's like I like the Colts to win, and I'll
Yep.
bank on them not winning by or winning by more than a point.
Yep. Yep. Okay. I think we're in agreement with Colts as a
Yeah.
like. All right. Next game, Browns at home against the Patriots. Browns are laying 2.5.
Yeah, I like the Pats a lot here. A lot of it has to do with the fact that their schedule is really, really good for the rest of the season.
Mm-hmm.
So starting with last week, they had the Lions, then it goes Browns, Bears, Jets, Vikings, then they have the Bills, and then they go Cardinals, Raiders, Bengals, Dolphins, and then they end the season with the Bills. So there's a lot of opportunities to win there, and this is certainly one of them. I think that kind of with the way that the teams match up, I don't think Brissett's going to have an easy day when it comes to throwing the ball. Amari Cooper, immediately I remembered when New England played Dallas a couple of years ago and he got like completely shut down. I think he had like one catch, but he has in 3 games against New England, he has 8 catches on 17 targets for 83 yards and a touchdown. That's over 3 games. So Belichick seems to have Cooper's number or, whatever. And
Still had it
then
down. Yep.
Belichick also typically owns the Browns when you look at it. I mean, I think that maybe there is a revenge angle there. You know how he is with the grudges. He still hates the Jets, all that
He's
stuff.
8-2 outright, 7-3 against the
Yeah,
spread.
and the last two against the Browns, because I didn't want to go back. 2016 was the third time that they played him, or third
Yep.
last time that they played him. But 2019, they won 27-13. 2021, which I think is very relevant because there was no Brady there, they won 45-7.
Yeah. Yep.
So it's not just a thing that oh yeah, they only did that because the Browns stunk and they had Brady.
Mm-hmm.
They were able to do that. I'm pretty sure Baker Mayfield played in that game and they
Yep.
just demolished them. And I think it's going to be a win similar to what we've seen, in a lot of these games. Like I saw last week with the 29-0 shutout. I think about how they beat the Chargers last year, where it was just all defense, making all the plays, stuff like that. And I think that's what we're going to see this week. And especially as underdogs, I like the Pats to win out right here.
Yeah, I was leaning Pats too. I think I this is there's going to be a lot of runs in this game. Because I think you've got two teams that have they're kind of in the bottom half of the league in terms of run defense. But Cleveland's actually significantly worse. I mean, obviously, I think Damian Harris is out, right? He's been ruled out. He's out for a couple weeks, but Ramondre Stevenson's going to get the rock, and he's
Yeah.
looked awesome. I think a lot of people are excited about him getting the ball. And yeah, I mean, I feel like, it's also like Belichick against a coach that I think he can run laps around. I think it's against a quarterback that he obviously knows, because Brissett played in New England. And I think he can find a way to contain the run. So yeah, I mean, it seems like Patriots, like, even though Mac's out, like they're kind of finding a way to be really, really competitive and look good. Took care of business last week against Detroit. To your point, like feels like this could be maybe the beginning of a run. I mean, if you look at that schedule, they could be 7-3 in several weeks,
Yeah.
heading into a matchup against, I think it's Minnesota. So, yeah, I like the Pats here. I think it's a good pick. All right, I'm gonna put that as a like. All right, next game, Packers at home against the Jets. Packers are giving up 7, returning from London, and a brutal loss against the Giants.
Yeah, a big part of me does want to keep fading the Packers. I was saying it last week how they had all those complaints coming off of the Pats game, and Rogers talking about how winning like that is still unacceptable, and I was saying how is going to London really the spot where you get right and prove to not be. But I do still think that the Packers are a little bit better than maybe they've looked in some of these spots. Um, Part of me also says the Jets do have momentum, but then I just kind of look at what the Jets wins have been, and they beat Pittsburgh when Pickett came in for Trubisky. They beat
Yeah,
Cleveland with Brissett. They beat Miami last week with Teddy Bridgewater throwing one pass, and then Skylar Thompson coming in, in
yeah,
relief. And
yeah.
then they lost to Cincinnati and Baltimore. So there is
Well,
a
that Browns win too was like fluky.
yeah,
I mean, look, they won. Like,
yeah.
they earned it, but it was also very, very fluky.
Yeah,
Uh,
so I think it's definitely worth noting that trend where they're winning against backup quarterbacks and they're losing against kind of top end talent, and Rodgers is certainly that, and I think it's also kind of interesting that in both of those losses they were 6.5 point road dogs and they lost by 15 in both games.
mm,
So now we have them as 7 point road dogs, in Lambeau. Um, I think it's one of those matchups too. It's LaFleur versus Robert Saleh. I think that they're two guys that know each other pretty well. I'm pretty sure LaFleur's brother is the offensive coordinator.
hmm
Um, for New York, so that does make it a little interesting. But I think that a lot of people might be looking to fade the Packers this week, and I think maybe that's the opportunity that we take. I mean, I think if you told me before the season that Aaron Rodgers would only be a 7 point fade, only have to beat the Jets by more than a
Yeah,
touchdown,
yeah,
at Lambeau, I'd be feeling real good about that.
yeah. Right now on Odd Shark, they are showing 59% on on the Packers.
Yeah.
Curious what the money looks like. Um, if there's a big difference there. But yeah, I mean, I think people are definitely expecting the Packers to get right and cover. And I like your points of like, you start to kind of pull back the curtain on the Jets wins, in their covers, and it's like it's actually not that good looking. Um, so and who knows? Maybe the Giants are a good football team. Um, so yeah, I don't know. I'd probably lean Green Bay, but I don't know if I love it. I think it's probably more of a lean for me,
Yeah.
but not a strong like. Was it a top 5 for you?
Um, no, I don't think so. No.
Okay. All right. Well, we can mark it as a like, mark it as a lean, and see where we end up and come back to it if we want to. Next game's your favorite number. It's a
Yep.
5.5er. So we got the Ravens at the Giants, and the Ravens are laying 5.5.
I'm a little weary. Just Giants coming back from London. How did the teams respond? What was the first London game?
It was New Orleans and Minnesota, right?
New Orleans, Minnesota. And when was
Yeah.
that? Was that week 4?
That was week 4. So then you
On
look
week
back to
5 would
last
have been
week.
their.
Both teams won.
Yeah, both teams did win
Minnesota
in the end.
pushed. New
Both teams,
Orleans
or yeah,
covered.
pushing a cover.
Yeah.
So maybe that's not too much of a factor there.
Giants
Um,
also Giants also didn't have that far to come. I mean, East Coast, so
yeah,
flight's a little shorter.
yeah. So like you said, my first note was about that 5.5 point number that I hate, especially, with them being on the road. We do have the Giants as a home dog here.
Mhm.
I think that there's something to just Saquon Barkley just being, somewhat of an MVP where he's just kind of carrying this team on his back. And
Yep.
Daniel Jones is able to do enough, and Daboll seems to be a pretty good coach. So I think that maybe the Giants do have something cooking here. And, to me, especially with that 5.5, it just kind of stinks of a backdoor cover by the Giants here. That feels like something where maybe it's a 10-point game and then they score a touchdown late. And,
Mhm.
then the Ravens are just running the clock. Especially with how the Ravens, we've seen them perform in the second half, in a lot of these games. So I think the Giants are going to be able to keep the pressure on the Ravens all game and keep this one close. And I think that we could be on the right side of, any backdoor.
It's interesting. You mentioned Saquon as like an MVP, just putting the team on his back. He's
Yeah.
80-1 on the Barstool Sportsbook right now.
He's not going to win it.
He says he's an MVP, and then he's not gonna win
Well,
it.
no, it's like the team MVP,
I know,
You
I
get like
know.
I mean, yeah, it's still the Giants. They're not gonna.
That's funny. Yeah, I think I just the last few weeks as I've watched the Ravens, I just haven't really been all that impressed.
Yeah,
Um, they just they seem a little shaky. I don't know. I mean, for as much praise as Lamar gets, and I mean he's a good quarterback, he's versatile, he's playing okay, but like um he's struggling to get the job done. And he's I don't know. I'm not all that impressed. I like the momentum that the Giants have. I think they're playing with a little bit of a chip on their shoulder. Um, Saquon does look great. Um, yeah, I mean, I think it's an interesting pick for us to take.
yeah,
Let's see what looking at Odd Shark, 54% on the Ravens. So it's not that significant. Odd Shark is predicting the Giants to win 24-20. Yeah, that could be a like. All right, let me mark it. Next game we got is the Vikings -3.5 in Miami against the Dolphins. Teddy Bridgewater's back, right?
I don't think so. I think it's still Skylar Thompson expected to
Is
start.
it?
I think Teddy Bridgewater might have been like limited at practice today or something, but
Let me see. Let me pull this up.
yeah, the last report I see from 12 hours ago is limited Thursday,
I gotta tell you,
non-contact.
kind of strange to me that Miami might be playing their third string quarterback and the Dolphins or the Vikings are only a 3.5 point favorite.
Yeah, let me just see if that's still the. Sometimes that could just move.
I mean, doesn't that seem Teddy was set for a limited practice on Thursday,
Yeah,
returns to practice. So I think I would assume this line is basing it on the intel that he is probably going to clear concussion protocol and play.
yeah, yeah. So that could be it. And then it is also the Vikings on the road.
Yeah.
Um, but I mean, yeah, there is still something kind of strange to that, and like to me, it is just a spot where the Vikings should, kill them. I think that, um, yeah, I think the Dolphins are just banged up, beyond just the quarterback position as well. Um, I mean, to me, it's just kind of a game that stinks. I'm not really that interested in
Yeah,
this.
I would.
Just
Yeah.
with the potential of Skylar Thompson playing, I wouldn't want to be taking the Dolphins and relying on a guy making his first start either.
Yeah. Yeah. And this does reek of just a Kirk Cousins fucking stinker.
Yeah.
And there would be nothing more frustrating and no worse way to like ruin my Sunday
Yeah.
than to sit there holding a ticket with Kirk Cousins on it, watching him blow it against the Dolphins. I would be absolutely irate.
Yeah.
So I don't think I'm prepared to put myself through that. So let's move on. Another 5.5 line for you. We got the 49ers going to Atlanta, laying 5.5.
Yeah, of course, 5.5 on the road. I don't like it. Atlanta getting Pitts back. They are undefeated against the spread.
Yeah.
Um, But the reason that I kind of don't want to bet against that trend is because the Niners are also very injured, and I think that this could be a spot that maybe the public overlooks. They just see Niners less than a touchdown against the Falcons, and they don't really consider on the road, flying across the country.
Oh, is Bosa out?
I don't think he's been practicing. I think all those guys in the defense haven't been practicing yet.
Yeah. Nick Bosa out of practice on Thursday. 49ers, Kyle Shanahan.
Yeah.
Eagles,
Armstead, Bosa, Kinlaw, Mosley, Ward, and Trent Williams all did not practice today.
Oh man, they're banged up. Yeah, Atlanta gets Pitts back. They're still without Patterson. They're going to be without him for a little bit. But they'll have Pitts, London. I mean, I guess they've got two capable running backs. How do you say that kid's name? Allegier or some shit.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it could just be we go with the team who's hot against the spread and getting the number that we're always wary of. It's another home dog.
Yeah.
So we just kind of stick with our pattern. All right, I'm going to mark them as a like. The Falcons, that is. All right, this is a game we were texting about the other day. Rams at home, laying 10.5 against the Panthers with a new coach.
Yeah, I think this is. I was saying to you over text, and we can kind of just run through it really quickly again. But I think that this is just a spot where Vegas can catch the public sleeping, and everybody wants to jump on the Rams because they just fired their coach. They don't have Baker Mayfield. Everybody, saying PJ Walker, his stats are just really not good, and his tape's not that great either. But then I think that they kind of just overlook kind of the important details where PJ Walker is 2-0 as a starter. Steve Wilkes, he does have this head coaching experience, and he's coaching for an opportunity to actually win the job as well. I mean, he's not just in here to keep the seat warm. Like, he has an opportunity to become the coach and kind of get that second chance. And we were saying over text where he really didn't get a fair shake in Arizona. I mean, he had a 3-13 season with Josh Rosen, and I think in hindsight we look back and we realize that maybe 3 wins with Josh Rosen was actually pretty impressive.
Which is pretty good. Yeah, he should
Yeah,
have
it
got
really wasn't that bad. And
Yeah.
he's a Charlotte kid, so he's back in his hometown. He was coaching with under Ron Rivera there during like their really good years. He went to a Super Bowl with them. He was a defensive assistant then, eventually became the coordinator. He almost got the Rams job. I'm pretty sure he came in second place to Sean McVay, and he performed so well in that interview that that's what led to him getting hired by the Cardinals, because he became such a hot commodity, I believe, the next season. And that's how he ended up landing that job. So, I do think that maybe people are seeing, oh, this coach, he's dog shit. The quarterback's dog shit. Let's bet against them. They're on the road, no Baker, just fired their coach, playing the Rams. But also, the Rams haven't really proven that they should be a team that's giving, 10.5 points to anybody. And, they're not looking good. They're not covering spreads. They're not look. I mean, they're so reliant on just Cooper Kupp. And, so I mean, I think that this is a weaker Rams team, and I think this might be too big of a number. And I like the Panthers, and maybe just play, give Christian McCaffrey a ton, and kind of keep the ball, play a tight game plan, and just kind of run the ball, and throw those short passes, and try and keep it close.
Yeah, yeah.
And I mean, this Panthers defense too. I mean, and the other thing too is the defensive coordinator is the same coordinator from Arizona, so he's kind of got that. He's bringing his regime back, and
yeah, because he fired defensive coordinator Phil Snow and then special teams coach Ed Foley.
Yeah,
both longtime disciples of Rule. And Wilkes said it was his call. It was my call, my decision. Felt like I wanted a different approach moving forward. That was it.
yeah, and we've seen the Panthers defense. They have that thing where they all their wins come like they just like, if they keep somebody under 17 points, they like win the game. And I think that this defense does have the juice to kind of put out some good efforts. They don't necessarily do it every time, but they're able to do that. And if they can just keep the Rams low enough and kind of keep the Rams closer to 20 points, then I think that we're looking really good.
Well, yeah, and I mean, again, we're not looking for Carolina to win either. We're looking for them to stay inside 10 points. So getting 10.5, yeah, Yeah, I mean, I like the call. Instead of looking at it as a team that fired the coach, they're just going to get steamrolled. Instead, it's a team that's a little bit inspired by an opportunity for a
Yeah, I
fresh
mean,
start.
we see it all the time with the teams winning with an interim coach and
Yeah.
playing well and kind of just getting fired up.
Yep. Yeah. Sometimes you just need to get a guy out of the locker room. So
Yeah,
in this case, they got three of them out.
yeah.
Okay. Panthers are alike. Next game, Cardinals, Seahawks, in Seattle, and this is another home dog. Seahawks getting 2.5 at home.
Yeah, so I've been kind of beating that Seahawks drum, all season. I just felt like people were looking at them as kind of that lower tier, fighting for that first overall pick team, and I just don't think that they're that, right? I mean, Russell Wilson just has not been good in years past. We've been saying that he's a little bit overrated, and Gino's obviously stepping in. He's playing pretty well, but now I feel like the pendulum's kind of starting to swing back, or maybe swing too far, I should say, for
Mhm.
how people were liking the Seahawks. I mean, they did lose. They did not cover last week. They're 2-3 against the spread. Um, they lost as a half point favorite, in a 27-23 Atlanta loss. Um, Arizona's 3-1 in the last 4 against the spread. They've, covered the last 2. I feel like they're heating up. I think this is just one of those another one of those games where, like I was kind of saying about who was it? The Saints and the Bengals. I just feel like, whether you think the Cardinals are serious or not, they're just a better team here, and I think that this is where they're kind of getting warmer going into the season. Maybe the Seahawks, we see them regress a little bit. And, like I said, I mean, overall, the Seahawks season, when you really look at the record, it's like, oh, I guess they're not playing as good as I thought, right? I mean, we look at it like, oh, yeah, they had that close game in Atlanta, but it's like, okay, but they were half point favorites to win that game. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
losing it is a disappointment there. And Cliff's 2-1 in Seattle. Both of his wins were as dogs. So, so I feel like, I was kind of worried looking at it. I was like, wait, let me check, make sure that Pete Carroll doesn't like own Cliff Kingsbury or something. But
Yeah.
like Cliff, he's shown that he can go in there and win, and he's shown that he can go in there and win with weaker teams. So I feel like the Cardinals, I think maybe they're getting some juice now. They got the Hard Knocks coming. They got DeAndre Hopkins coming back in 2 weeks.
Back. Yeah.
So I feel like they got to start finding their
And the-
stride, and hopefully they can go on a run once they insert him back into the lineup. So I like the Cardinals here. I think that they can just go in there and win.
Well, and I mean, you look at how they played last week too. I mean, they lost that game, but they covered. And I mean, frankly, could have had an opportunity if Murray knew what the fuck he was doing when he slides.
Yeah.
That would have extended the drive, gotten a first down, gotten them closer for a field goal try, or even having a shot to score a touchdown. And that's against a team that, I mean, that was an undefeated Eagles team that they were playing. It's a good football team. They're 0-3 at home, but they're 2-0 on the road. They're on the road in this case. You already shouted out the Kingsbury record against Carroll. And I think too, I mean, with all the positive trends that we're seeing for Arizona, including Hopkins coming back next week, they're 2-3. They've kind of hung around, and they're only a game back. That division's wide open right now. So this is a bit of a must win for them, I think.
Yeah.
You got to take a game like this. You can't afford to lose it.
Yeah.
So
Exactly.
yeah, I think it's an interesting pick. I'm gonna put it as a like. All right. Next game. This is gonna be a ridiculous game. Bills and Chiefs. It's in KC. Chiefs are getting 2.5. What's this? Is this the first time in God knows how long that Mahomes is like an underdog or some shit?
Um.
It's like the first time in
Yeah.
a long time in the regular season, maybe.
Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah.
I like the Chiefs here. The only way that I feel like this could go wrong is that I feel like maybe the Chiefs could afford a loss here more than the Bills can. I just feel like the Bills, they already had that early season loss. They don't want to have it again. I feel like the Chiefs, they got that momentum, so they can maybe take that step back, where the Bills, they need to try and get this win to continue to build back. I think the Chiefs could survive a loss better here. Um, but I think it's more of just like a kind of like who's your daddy type thing. When you look at it, the Chiefs, they have been better. They're 3-1, against Josh Allen and the Bills. And just for that reason, I think Chiefs at home as underdogs. I think you got to take them.
I like the Chiefs here too. I mean, really for a lot of the same reasons you just said. I like the way they look. Um, just watching how they're getting it done. Like it's exactly what Mahomes said. I mean, obviously, like Kelsey continues to be a go-to for him, but it's been a lot of what he said at the beginning of the season, which is just like it's it's going to be different guys every night. Like, he's spreading the ball around. I think he looks phenomenal. And I do think this is, one of those moments like I think the Bills are obviously going to have revenge on their mind, but I also think this is a moment where the Chiefs are going to kind of tell them, like, you're not there yet. Like, you're still not there.
Yeah,
Still better than you. And they are at home and they're getting points. So I do like the Chiefs here too. I think they've just been consistently a better football team.
yeah.
All right. Next up, we got Eagles at home -6 against the Cowboys.
Yep. I forget who said it, but this is just it's a big something's got to give spot where the Eagles are obviously undefeated for the season, but the Cowboys, I believe, have not lost with Cooper Rush as their quarterback.
Yep.
I mean, obviously they haven't lost this year, and then I think his only other start was last year against the Vikings, which they won. Um, Dallas has covered the last three against the Eagles, and they were all blowouts. I think they were favorites in all those spots, but 51-26, 41-21, 37-17. So there could be something there where, maybe Mike McCarthy just kind of has their number, can kind of figure them out there. But I like I actually like the Cowboys here. I just feel like maybe it's a stupid thing to do. I mean, I guess it worked in or I guess we didn't take it last week, but we did like the Cardinals last week. But especially at this big number, I like the Cowboys to keep it close. And I just feel like there should always be upset alert with the Eagles now.
Eagles are a horrible second half football team.
Yeah,
Horrible. Yeah, I don't know, the last few weeks they've gotten it done, but I've really not like been all that impressed with how they've gotten it done. And again, like, they seem to go into the half with a good lead, or at least have a lead. And I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's, a combination of like they're not making halftime adjustments, other teams are making good adjustments. I think part of it too is they seem to change the philosophy and the way the offense runs in the second half. It's like once they get on a lead, they switch to the run and they're just not effective running the football. And so they, fewer plays, more punts. They kind of take the ball out of Jalen Hurts' hands. They don't score. And I think it just allows teams to hang around. And that's a little bit of what we've been seeing.
hmm
So, yeah, I mean, in this case, especially getting 6, with a team who's played really effectively with Cooper Rush under center. Um, they've just been a really solid football team. That defense looks good too.
yeah,
Um, so yeah, getting points in a divisional game, getting that many points, it's kind of hard to look away from taking the 6.
yeah.
Okay. All right, last game. Chargers at home on Monday night, laying 5 against the Broncos.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have many notes on this. I actually like the Broncos here +5. I think it's just kind of a gut feeling type thing. Uh, I feel like the Broncos. I just feel like every year I kind of have a team that I feel like I get locked into, and I can kind of just feel how things go with them, and I feel like the Broncos might be that team for me. Um, but yeah, I don't really believe in the Chargers like we've been talking. I just don't think Brendan Staley's that great of a coach. I think he's the coach before the coach when it comes to the Chargers really taking off, kind of the Mark Jackson for the Warriors going to Steve Kerr. So I just kind of I like fading the Chargers. I just feel like, even if they have been covering in weeks past, they haven't really been impressive. They let the Texans hang around. I forget who they have last week. Um,
The Chargers.
yeah.
Their last week they were against Cleveland, 2-point win.
Yeah, and that was that ugly win. I mean, that was a very winnable game for Cleveland there. So it's like,
Yep.
I mean, I just don't think the Chargers have been that impressive. I know the Broncos, you could make plenty of arguments and for them being, terrible, but I just think that, at some point, a little bit of rust is going to shake off for Russ. Like, he's been exceptionally bad. And I
Well,
know
he's got to show now. I mean, well, we don't know how true it is, but now they're claiming he's got what, like a tear in his something, some shoulder injury.
yeah, I think so. Um, But yeah, I mean, I don't know. I just think that it's one of those where when you look at it, I think that there could just be a lot of rust just from the fact that they didn't play in the preseason. He is coming in, he's got new receivers, and a lot of the mistakes they haven't been like he still has the arm strength and everything. It's really just the accuracy. So I think that there could be something where the touch comes back a little bit, and then we see a little bit of a bump, right? We came into this saying that we thought Russ and the Broncos were overrated, going in the season, but I didn't really expect them to be as bad and looking this bad, right? I think the record's all right, but they've been looking very bad, and I think that there's going to be a little bit of a bounce back for them. Where I just think overall the Chargers are overrated, not as impressive as a team, and they're still being viewed as maybe one of those top end teams. Where the Broncos, I think it's more of a buyback opportunity for them.
Mm-hmm. I don't love it.
Yeah,
Um, just the Broncos have just been so bad. I I also don't love the Chargers.
yeah,
So I think this would be more of a stay away game, like not just not betting either side. Probably just not even betting the game.
yeah,
We watch it, but yeah, I think this is one I'd rather lay off just because I feel like it's hard to get a read. I don't love either team. I don't love the way that either team has looked. Even though the Chargers seem to have played a little bit better the last couple of weeks, I just feel like they're a team you can't really trust, and I don't think the Broncos have shown anything that gives me any sort of reason to trust them. Even getting five, but they're on the road, so it's a stay away spot for me.
yeah.
Was this like a strong like for you?
No, no. I mean, it wasn't in my top. I actually do like it a lot. It wasn't in my top five.
Yeah, yeah,
But yeah, I mean, yeah, like just outside of that, I actually do like it a lot.
yeah, yeah. Okay. Um, all right. So if we go back through, we've got games that I had as likes. We had the Bengals -2 against the Saints on the road. We had the Colts at home against the Jags. We had the Patriots on the road, getting 2.5 against the Browns. We had the Giants at home, getting 5.5 against the Ravens. We had the Falcons at home getting 5.5 against the 49ers. Panthers getting 10.5 against the Rams. They're on the road. Cardinals laying 2.5 at Seattle. Chiefs home dogs, getting 2.5 against the Bills, and the Cowboys getting 6 at Philly. So we got a few games that we really like here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We got 9 that we need to whittle down. We got to pick right here.
Yeah. So, I mean, I could just read my top five just to give you an
Yeah.
idea where I was at. And this was kind of before. This was before we talked through everything. This was just me writing my notes down, but uh, not in any order necessarily. But the one favorite I had were the Colts -1.5.
Mm-hmm.
And then I had the Chiefs +2.5, the Pats +2.5, the Falcons +5.5, and the Giants +5.5.
Colts and Chiefs I like. And then you had what? Falcons, Giants, Pats.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, I think I can get behind that. Just in terms of like prioritization. Um, because as I look at these, like, and again, I'm not trying to like now take the other side, but it's just a matter of like why I like those more than I like the games we didn't pick there.
Mm-hmm.
It is still like, Panthers on the road, with the new coach. Cardinals, even though they seem to be trending in the right direction, like, uh,
The Cardinals, I'd say, are like the one that I like the Cowboys too. I think the Cardinals and the
yeah,
Cowboys would be like my last two out.
yeah,
I think, I like the Bengals, but then I really didn't like any other favorites besides those
yeah,
three. And
I do
then
like I do like taking the home teams with those 5.5 lines. I mean, that's one we've kind of been sticking on
yeah,
a little bit. Home dogs. So I do like those picks. I did really like the Colts and Chiefs. Those were two that I was on. So then it just becomes a matter of like, you know, our confidence level of the Patriots and do we like the Cardinals, the Cowboys, or Panthers more? Um, do we go with a team who's undefeated with their quarterback um against a team that's, you know,
also undefeated with their quarterback.
also undefeated with their quarterback, but I think has shown some signs the last couple of weeks of not being as dominant as they were at the start of the season. And we're getting six there. Um, Panthers would probably be the one I'm least confident in, so I think I'd be okay passing.
Yeah, because I mean, I think that's more of just a hunch, gut
Yeah,
feeling type
yeah,
thing
yeah,
where, I mean, it's still, it still is a bad team versus a good team. I mean,
yeah.
there's plenty of
Oh, good,
reasons.
good-ish.
Yeah,
Yeah,
there's plenty of reasons not to like the Rams, but
yeah,
yeah, I mean, I think it's definitely the least favorable spot for us for sure.
yeah. I mean the Cardinals pick, I think is a good one. I think there's also enough reasons to have some concerns, but I do think the point you were making about like Seahawks last week didn't cover. Lost by 7 to a team that we're actually fading this week. So it's I guess Patriots or Cowboys.
Yeah, I mean, I guess, yeah. One thing I did just think of was, so you were saying, right, the Jags, they beat the Colts week one.
Yeah,
The only thing I do worry about is that
or week 2,
Frank
something.
Reich is a Doug Peterson disciple.
Yeah.
So maybe could there be like a father son type thing there, and maybe I don't know, maybe that is something that's concerning. Maybe it's just something like how a coach is always beating his coaching tree or something like
Hold
that.
on. Let's look up Frank Reich, Doug. Let's see. Let's see if there's a stat on that. Just trying to see if there's like, is that the only game that they've played? Is that the
Yeah,
only
it would be because Frank Reich won the Super Bowl with, or yeah, I mean, unless there was a Philly Colts game, but I think Doug Peterson was gone by the time that would
Yeah,
have happened.
yeah. Um, I don't. I mean, it's such a small sample size. It's tough to say. Like, is it a father son thing or not? I don't know. I mean, there is a thing. Let's see.
But I'm saying that like paired with the fact that the Jaguars just like do seem to have the Colts' number.
Yeah.
But I mean, it could just be another thing where I mean, it looks like they do just split every year. Um, or I think the last two seasons at least I was looking at, it looks like they've split. So
Hold on. I'm gonna go back and look. So, all right. Yeah, the last
yeah,
game.
at least the last two seasons they've split. And the Colts won both at home, both the
At
home
home.
games.
Yeah, at home. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
so
maybe
let's stick with that.
let's stick with it. Maybe that's just
Yeah,
we're
because
leaning more.
we got Jerome Boger with the home divisional favorites
Yeah,
too.
there you go. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's the key stat.
yeah.
Um, all right. So Pats.
I mean, I'm comfortable with the top five. I feel like I like going heavy on underdogs, and
I mean, underdogs have been winning.
yeah, yeah. I mean, like I think the only hesitation if we're playing devil's advocate to the Chiefs is they're going against the Bills, and it's like could just be one of those where maybe it's just too good of a game, too good of a matchup or something like that. But I still like the Chiefs in that spot. I'm very confident in the Pats to win. So it's like if we're viewing that as the original top five, it's tough to find one to kind of pull out of
Yeah.
that.
I mean, would you I mean, what do you think about swapping out the Chiefs for the Cowboys?
I don't necessarily love it anymore, you know.
Yeah, yeah. I think we just go with our belief.
Yeah,
We just believe that Mahomes is better and he's going to continue to beat Allen.
yeah. And is that
Um,
looks like what, a 4:30 game, 4:25?
yeah, it's a late afternoon game.
Yeah,
Um, okay.
cool.
All right. So we're gonna go. Here, let me just let me do it up here. So we're gonna go Colts. We're gonna go Patriots. We're gonna go Giants. We're going to go Chiefs, Falcons, and then Chiefs. Okay. All right. Colts, Pats, Giants, Falcons, Chiefs.
Cool.
All right. 5-0. Let's do it.
Sounds good.
All right. Good talk. I'll see
Yep.
you out there.